event with Teresa Goss. That was October 2nd. So 1 month ago. Jen and I see each other a lot, but let me go ahead and give her her proper introduction before I hand her over to you, April. Sound good?
Mhm.
Okay.
All
So,
right.
Lady Jen is referred to as the leading expert in helping high achieving business owners and executives build world class teams so they can live the business lifestyle they have always dreamed of while scaling their business or company. She believes that we are acres of diamonds right under our feet and that we have everything we need to inspire people. Her motto is move from working in and on your business to living above and beyond. So, Lady Jen, I am excited to bring you up on stage, and I'm going to hand you over to April. I might kind of talk in between since I know you so well, and
Of course.
some extra questions. So here we go.
Yeah. Yay. Yay. By the way, I'm not clapping for myself. I'm just excited.
Well, we're all clapping for all of us. How about that?
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Yeah.
Well, Lady Jen, we are very excited to have you here, and we appreciate all of the tips that you've given us in the last few minutes on how to how to look better and sound better and just be better. So we appreciate that. So I feel like we're in the presence of royalty here, and I'm a little nervous. So I just want to tell you that this is definitely a beautiful thing. So I understand that family is extremely important to you. And I just kind of wanted to touch on that and just kind of, get your background and how you feel about the importance of family.
Well, thank you. And again, Michelle, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited for everybody. I think that this is just going to be a great day for all of you, and I'll speak to that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into my family history right now. I can just in a few minutes, but I want to answer your very specific question is, why family is so important. My husband and I both came from difficult backgrounds that I'll share here in a few minutes, but we came from these really difficult backgrounds. And one of the things that we said we wanted to do was not repeat history. And that is really important for us. So we just celebrated our 41st wedding anniversary in July. And even when I say that, I don't think I'm 41. I know I am. I feel it every morning. But it's amazing that we've been together that long, and we've been together much longer. We're high school sweethearts. We met in 10th grade, and homecoming was our first date. And I did not like him. So, a little off and on through our senior year. And, for anybody that knows him, first of all, he looks like Bruce Willis and he acts like a 12-year-old.
Okay.
So I get, I get a little bit of this, right? But I think that laughter has probably kept us going because I'm the more calm and serene person in the relationship, and he's just not. And that helps. That really helps our relationship.
Right.
But we from the very beginning, it was about team, about being a team. And there were times when he was the lead parent and then times that I was the lead parent, and we just never really said that we had to have a traditional role in our marriage, that I had to do all the cooking and cleaning and he brought home the bacon, that type of thing. And so because we don't care who cleans up or who picks up the babies or whatever the case may be.
Right.
It's made it really good for us. And I think that it was important for us, especially for me. There wasn't a holiday that wasn't filled with throwing chairs, guns being pointed at people, all kind drinking, all of that.
Right.
So for me, it was super important that we had holidays that were memorable in a good way. And we've just brought that on to our kids, and our kids have been married for years. They're very successful at what they're doing as well. And it all starts with faith. Faith is super important for me. It's super important for our family. And, we married for life, and that's how it's going to be, good, bad, or indifferent. And we're going through a rough patch right now. My husband had a traumatic brain injury 3 years ago, and he's not the same person. And now I'm not the same person. So we're struggling through that, but we love each other dearly and we're a team. So
Yes.
nothing will happen.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, you have definitely made quite a career. You have a podcast that I've listened to, and you are a speaker and a coach and a TV show host. Was there a particular moment or person that influenced you on the path to do this?
Well, I've always been, I want to say, an educator. I was going to be, well, let me back up to my story. Can I answer that? Let me do that. Is that okay? Okay. So, I'm one of 36 first cousins. We're a big Catholic
Wow.
family. And I was the only one who was an only child when I was really young. Now, my brother was born when I was 12 and a half years old, but my childhood before 12 was not so good. I loved my family. I loved my grandma and grandpa. They lived next door to us. Thank God they lived next door to us because I went to mass with them every morning before I went to school. And but my uncles all had these nicknames for us. And we had Stan the Man and Gene the Machine and a whole bunch of them. And I don't know what impact it had on them, but mine was called Jenny Who Ain't Got a Penny. And I didn't quite understand it. It was just another nickname. And so I carried a penny around in my shoe. And you know what's funny? Back then, we actually had loafers where you could put the penny in, but I didn't do that. I just carried it in my shoe. And so every time he'd say, Jenny, I got a penny, I'd say, no, I have a penny, ha, ha, ha. And so that was, just kind of what I thought. In fact, I took that penny out of my shoe about 12 years ago, because it became an anchor. It was a reminder for a long time, but then it became an anchor and I had to let it go. But Dad was an alcoholic. My mom was a verbal abuser, and every every single night there was a fight and an argument because he was drunk and she was yelling. And to this day, and maybe I'll find out when I go to heaven, is, who pushed whose buttons? Was she yelling because he was drinking? Was he drinking because she yelled? She's a middle child of 10. So
Wow.
she has issues. She has this victimness about her. But one day I came home and I heard them yelling and I knew what was going to happen. And I walked through the screen porch and into the living room, and my dad had a shotgun to my mom's head. And she was shaking with her cigarette, and her little overcoat. Remember those overcoats with the big zipper that our moms had, right? And she was very heavy and fluffy, as she calls it. And she was shaking. And I ran out and I thought, and with my hands in my ears and going la 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 la, because I did not want to hear it. I ran over to my grandparents' house. They had a cornfield, and I swear to God, if you've ever watched Forrest Gump, and Jenny's in there praying for different reasons, but she's in that praying. That was me. And I was running out there, and that was the moment that I understood the Jenny Who Ain't Got a Penny, because my uncle said to me, you're going to be just like them. You're going to drink because that's what happens. Alcoholics breed alcoholics, and you're going to be a verbal abuser because that's what she does. And you're going to be poor like they are, and you're not going to have anything, and you're not going to amount to anything, and you're not going to go to school. And that was the moment that everything changed for me. And I said, I'm going to show them what I can do. But the problem is I set out on this life of proving and, proving that I could be better, perfect grades, perfect child, look perfect, act perfect, be perfect, because maybe he won't drink. Maybe she won't yell at me. Maybe she won't grab my hand and my hair and show me how to dust properly or clean a toilet properly.
Right.
And maybe he would pay attention to me, you know. And so I set out on that, and I was runner-up Miss Colorado. I was a tennis star. I was pre-med for cardiology. I ended up taking, or not taking, but getting a degree in architectural design and construction engineering. And so all of that was mounting and building. And then I met this guy who, we're called Danny and Sandy because I'm very proper and he's not. And I met this guy, but he said, why don't you do something for yourself now? And he really pushed me to be able to do it. Now, he came from his parents were married and divorced to each other 3 times by the time I met him when we were 13 and 14.
Wow.
And so he was the parent.
Mhm.
So he was looking for what he thought was consistency because mom and dad were married for 50 years. And I was looking for fun, right? Where didn't have to walk a straight line and only wear dresses. I was in 11th grade and I finally got to wear a pair of pants to school. And so we really leaned on each other from a really, really young age. And I think that solidified our foundation, for what we did. But I carried all that into work. And so all I was doing was proving to everybody in work too, until I had an incident that I said, I'm done proving. I want to start living. And so this education, this piece where you're saying, was there a tipping point? It was a lifelong tipping point of be better, be better, be better, be better, be better, be better. And a life of comparison. And now I say comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah. Don't compare yourself to other people because there's trouble everywhere. Everyone has things that they're dealing with. Nothing's perfect. My life is not. I'm struggling, right? Struggling with my husband here and there, but not every day, But do not compare yourself to other people. And so for me, what brought that on was just all my training. I'm rattling. I don't usually answer the questions this long because I'm a podcaster. I know how you're supposed to answer them quickly. But so what happened for me was that I heard about this thing called a podcast. And I didn't know anything about it. And so January 1st, I'll be podcasting my first show. I have 4. The first show will be 14 years. So I've been doing it a really long time. And honestly, if I didn't have that podcast, I would simply be a retired businesswoman. I'm still a businesswoman, but my career would have just been done. But it moved me along. So the podcast is probably the number one thing that was a catalyst for what I do now. I know it's a long answer, but there's my story. I'm sticking to
No,
it.
I think that's great. I think that's great. I think probably for you, if you're saying that otherwise you would be retired, it's keeping your brain active. It's keeping you going. It's keeping you in the industry. Because I mean, looking at the education that you've had, it seems like you're continually wanting to learn more and strive for more. But now you're doing this in such a positive way where you don't have things to prove and you're
No.
feeling more settled.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't have things for, it's funny if you listened to me years ago, and I got excited when we first started, right? That is that girl trying to please everybody. Not that I'm not excited, right? But I noticed when I was doing it, I'm like, whoa, why am I so excited, right? But some of that is that and it wasn't that I was putting anything on. It's just that pops out every once in a while that says, okay, I got to be the cheerleader. I got to be happy.
Right.
I have to, woo, but the fact of the matter is I'm very much an introvert. I'm very much a brainiac. I read 3 to 5 books a week. I'm just very into education of all sorts. And my grandkids don't like it because I don't play with them. I teach them. It's
Yes.
crazy. I'm always going, feel this, look at the trees, and my husband's rolling around with them. And I would love to do that. But now it's part of my DNA that there's an embedded proving that's still there, for myself now, not
Yeah,
for anybody else.
exactly. Exactly right. Well, I think you've been very successful in this. I think that it has been super fun to just kind of explore everything that you've done and research all of the things that you have. And like I said, your podcast, and it's just been really, really interesting to learn about you. You are
Thank you.
quite a lady. Can you share with us how you actually gained your title?
Yeah. Well, there's actually 2 stories, but I'll go through both. I was actually born a duchess from Bavaria. My grandmother was a duchess, and she ran away from Hitler, and he dissolved all the monarchies, and so everyone's titles got frozen. And so she was a duchess, and then it passed down to the firstborn of the firstborn. So my father's a duke, or was, and now I'm a duchess. I don't use that as much because I don't see a validity in it. I think early on, I thought it was a cool thing, but I don't see validity in it because if you're born into some kind of title, whoop-de-doo. You haven't done anything in the world. But 2 years ago, and yet everybody's like, oh, king this and princess that. And I love Princess Di and all that stuff, but they didn't do anything. Well, she did eventually, right? But they didn't do anything to gain that title. And so 2 years ago, I was nominated to be part of the Royal House of Cappadocia and the Royal Order of Constantine the Great in St. Helen. And there's a Christian aspect to it. It's not required, but there's a Christian aspect to it. Our prince, he has his title, Frozen 2. So Prince Raphael, he's happens to be happens to be Catholic, which is kind of nice for me, but it's not required. And what we do is that we help and support women and children who are homeless and girls that are trafficked all over the world. And that all was just an extension of my work. So it was such an honor to be asked to be part of the Royal House and to be knighted, to formally be called that. And to me, that has more value and validity for me, because it's things that I have actually done to give back to the world, as opposed from taking, which my mom and dad took a lot. My mom, they gave back, but they took so much. And just because you're born into royalty doesn't mean that you can't have mental health problems and abuse and drugs and alcohol in your life, right? In your family. And it turns out that on my mom's side of the family, there's a lot of suicide with some of the people way back. So I know where this victimness comes from. And I just, decided I was going to be a victor and not a victim. And that's how I've chosen to live my life. It's unfortunate because my brother, who's 12 and a half years younger, he is a victim. And same family, same parents. He just had a different outlay on how he was going to do it. And he didn't have it near as bad as I did.
And it's interesting that you talk about that, Jen, and I'm going to interrupt because we only have a couple seconds left here. But we get to choose, right? It's a choice every single day, whether you're a victim or a victor. And you said it right. And I'm so happy that we were able to start with you, because we all go through adversities. You went through adversity. You talked about, your dad having a shotgun to your mom's head. You talked about your dad being an alcoholic, your mom being a verbal abuser, the words that your family said, Jenny ain't got a penny. And then you going through your life proving, but then realizing that doesn't define you. You get to choose. And you've now chosen to live a productive, profitable, beautiful, family-driven life where you get to inspire and impact people all over the world by conquering your story, not just using it, but conquering that story of what you should have been, what would have been, and who you are today. And I'm just so honored to know you as a human being, because you are a pretty kick butt girl. I know we're live on Facebook, so I'll limit my cursing today. But Jen, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story. Please in the chat put your information so people live on the Zoom can connect with you. And if you are on Facebook watching, you can contact me. I'm sure Jen can go on and put her information in that Facebook live as well. She's writing that down. But please connect with Jen. And thank you so much. And thank you, April.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can I leave you with a quote?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. So I end all of my speaking with this quote, and I think it's really, really important. And this is, and I will type it in there because everybody's going to be trying to scramble it down, so don't worry about it. We flatter those we scarcely know. We please the fleeting guests, but we deal many a thoughtless blow to those we love the best, including ourselves. And I just want everyone to remember that is being nice to everybody and then